his efforts to secure a lasting natural heritage for South Africa, and his work to advance ethical governance and leadership. It is therefore befitting that the University of the Witwatersrand awards an honorary doctorate degree to Mavuso Walter Msimang. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to request that you confer the degree of Doctor of Commerce, honoris causa, on Mavuso Walter Msimang.
I confer the degree of Doctor of Commerce, honoris causa, on Mavuso Walter Msimang. I call upon Dr. Msimang to deliver his graduation address.
Vice-Chancellor of the University and members of the University Council, distinguished faculty, students, guests, and fellow South Africans, good day. It is with great humility and sincere gratitude that I accept this honorary doctorate from Wits University. I thank you not only for the recognition, but for the opportunity to reflect publicly on matters of profound national importance at a time when honest reflection, often unwelcome, is urgently required. This year marks 70 years of the Freedom Charter, the foundational document of South African democracy. It was drafted by ordinary South Africans, black and white, from all walks of life, over a two-day period on the 25th and 26th of June, 1995, in Kliptown. Born of hope, resistance, and moral clarity, the Charter proclaimed the type of society South Africans wished to build once the tyranny of apartheid had been dismantled. It envisioned political freedom which would make it possible for the person in the street, and indeed the one walking on the countryside footpaths, to realize social and economic justice, equality before the law, and reclaim their grossly abused dignity. Those who gathered in Kliptown had no illusions at all. I'm sorry about this. So may I repeat, those who gathered in Kliptown had no illusions. They knew that the road to freedom would be long and treacherous, but they believed that one day the principle in that charter would find a place in a new nation. And that has happened with the adoption of the democratic constitution of South Africa. So let's hold a mirror to our conscience. 70 years later, let's ask ourselves the question, to what extent have the declarations of the Freedom Charter been fulfilled? Where there has been failure, what caused it? The drafters of the Freedom Charter set out 10 objectives they said should be fulfilled to attain democracy. I've taken the liberty of rating our performance to date on a scale of 1 to 5, and I only provide highlights here now because time, as Tembelihle threatened me, is limited strictly to 15 minutes. So here goes. The Freedom Charter said, the people shall govern. The road to 27th April 1994, our Freedom Day, was protracted, hazardous, and demanded enormous sacrifice, including supreme sacrifices. 36 political prisoners were condemned to death between 1985 and 87, in 2 years. In 1990, around 70 political prisoners were still on death row. Approximately 134 political prisoners were executed between 1960 and the 1980s. Over 5,000 served long prison terms, including life terms, on Robben Island, while an even higher number was sent to jails elsewhere. So my performance rating of the citizens' performance to get to April 1994 is 5 out of 5. All national groups shall have equal rights. Based on the quality and inclusivity of the South African Constitution that was legislated in 1996, the people shall, I give that a 5 also. So we're doing well. The people shall govern in the people shall share in the country's wealth. This is another proclamation of the Freedom Charter. Well, the most recent data places our Gini coefficient at 0.67, the worst inequality on earth. Black South Africans experience the highest rates of poverty. Although poverty affects all races to some extent, the disparities are stark. A total of 64% of Africans are poor. What they call coloreds, we don't like that name, 41%. Indian or Asian, 6%. And white people, 1%. So, what rating there? 1 out of 5. All shall be equal before the law. Because justice for the poor is, in many cases, unaffordable, where 5 would have been given, this proclamation gets a 4. You know, if you quarrel with a rich person and they take you to court, you can be sure that you have no chance of challenging them because you have no money, and expensive lawyers will just leave you out. All shall be equal, all shall have equal rights. Again, thanks to our Constitution and the Bill of Rights. 5. The land shall be shared among those who work it. Oh, this thing is weird. There's no agrarian strategy in this country that's worth the name. The number of young people in agricultural colleges and universities is minuscule, mocking the frequently made call for the return of the land. Rural life is so harsh that many constantly trek to the informal settlements. It's a nice word for shacks that dot the landscape in and around urban areas in search of elusive job opportunities. So we get a 2 there out of 5. The doors of learning shall be opened. Basic education in public schools has been in dire need of an overhaul for more than 20 years. Enough research has been done to warrant no further arguments. At the current rate, the future governance of South Africa will be in the hands of the rich, mainly those who have been exposed to private education. 1 is the score for education. There shall be work and security. There are about 1.4 million households in South Africa living in informal settlements. Around Joburg, there are 180 informal settlements. Durban has 588 of them. These settlements have inadequate infrastructure. They're overcrowded, lack sanitation, clean water, etc. There's up to 72% unemployment in these places. A rating of 2 is very generous. There shall be peace and friendship. By this, the Freedom Charter meant respecting the rights and sovereignty of all nations and striving to maintain world peace. I think because South Africa has not tried to overrun Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland, we are in a safe space here. And importantly, we've held the line on Palestine. It is unfortunate that issues based on considerations other than the plight, the desperate plight of the people, divide our society. So we're not in agreement that the obvious genocide that is in Palestine does not exist. I still give the country as a whole 5. So what is the verdict looking at all these things? The verdict is leadership failure. In the 29 May 2024 general elections, the electorate, meaning those who still bothered to go to polling stations to cast their ballots, delivered a devastating judgment on the ANC's leadership of the country. This to a party that was the standard bearer of the freedom struggle, a movement that birthed the Freedom Charter, that provided 2 Nobel Prize winners, Albert Luthuli and Nelson Mandela. It's an ANC that gave South Africa an outstanding leader who kept the flames of the struggle burning in difficult exile conditions, a man who was at once brilliant and effortlessly humble, Oliver Kaizana Tambo. There was also the unassuming mentor of giants, Walter Sisulu. And there was the multitude of conscientious members who considered politics a space of sacrifice and service to the people with whom they lived. Complacency and arrogance, cardinal sins of incumbency, as well as complicity in wrongdoing, these negative attributes have cost this centennial organization its once highly prized respect and moral authority. Corruption is no longer an occasional blemish. It's a systemic crisis. For 15 years, the cries for the renewal of the ANC has been akin to a discordant record, a broken one. So we now have coalition governance in this country. I think it's an opportunity. We should turn the crisis of lack of confidence in a single party to an opportunity. 40% was got by my ANC in last year's national elections. That was a clear message from a community tired of living under the terror of murderous criminals in a country with one of the highest rates of femicide. I think the proper word is killing of women. Femicide disguises these things. Where over 60% of young people are jobless, where piped water flows used to flow at the opening of the tap, but now comes in dribs and drabs, or in erratic spurts, or just doesn't come. In the absence of light, we are in the dark. And the nation's energy is sapped. Nice words like load shedding. When people try to source their energy from the sun in order to relieve the overburdened grid, cynical Oscom and parasitic city authorities impose a punitive fine. Why are you setting up your own source of energy? For the ANC to stay in government, I want my colleagues to understand, it had to seek the cooperation of other parties. There are those of us who had thought that a coalition government comprising the ANC, the DA, and the IFP would have constituted a more stable arrangement. Their combined parliamentary votes would have given them a comfortable 2/3 majority, essential for investor confidence, which helps to grow our stagnant economy, stagnant economy, and provide employment to millions who walk the streets, some of whom have just given up. What we now have is called the government of national unity. There's a certain animal, the English called it gnu, the wildebeest we call it. It is not ugly, to use a human value. It's not very ugly, let me say. But it's one of the survivors in the wilderness. So the new government of national unity is a trifle unwieldy with 10 parties. It nevertheless has the mandate to govern the country and can do so. If the ANC and the Democratic Alliance appreciated the responsibility they have towards this nation, they would shed their adolescent behavior and seize the moment to turn around over 20 years of a downward economic spiral in this country. Truth to tell, the so-called divergent ideological policies among these parties and strategies, they are not the issue. They are not at the center of the recurring scraps that happen between the parties. In February 2016 already, the ANC government had launched its Black Industrialist Program, which doesn't sound to me like a socialist program. Now, the DA also should know that a mere 30 years of trying to economically empower black people, even if this was done properly and not riddled with corruption, that it would not have been sufficient to redress the wealth imbalance that's currently in favor of a white constituency that was inherited during 350 years of white privilege, that rode on a whites-only political and economic treadmill. All that said, I still maintain that a government of national unity addressing itself to the crisis at hand, and it is a serious crisis we're having, can make South Africa work. Now to the youth. I don't mean people younger than me, I mean the real youth. The students gathered here tonight, you are the heirs of the Freedom Charter, whether you knew it or not, like it or not. You all are, wherever you came from. Yours is the task of restoring its spirit in a digital and globalized world. You must insist on ethical leadership. You must challenge injustice whenever, in whatever form it appears. And you must never accept mediocrity as the norm. A luta continua. In closing, I accept the honorary doctorate not as a reward, but a charge. A reminder that we must never grow comfortable with the distance between what is and what ought to be. Let us not squander the moment at hand. Let us not allow pettiness and pride to win the day. We owe the people more than that. We owe history more than that. Let us rise. Thank you.